Tell me when we're ready. Good morning. We'll call this meeting of the Bucks County Commissioners to order. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to begin today with the Pledge of Allegiance, but we would like to introduce our new Project and Diversity Officer, and that is Bernard Griggs, and ask him to stand and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today. There's Bernard's waving from back there. Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just check in with our row offices that are here if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Untitled Chapter. And Barbara, Register well.
Thanks. And we'll begin today with the proclamation, and Commissioner Harvey will read this on Pretrial, Probation, and Parole Supervision Week.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whereas pretrial, probation, and parole officers, agents are sworn peace officers who work in the community, meet offenders at home, at work, and in public, and are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to respond to emergencies. And whereas pretrial, probation, and parole officers, agents provide both supervision and counseling to offenders and operate to uphold the law and safeguard the public from criminal activity during an offender's transition from incarceration to the community. And whereas pretrial, probation, and parole officers, agents work toward changing lives by working with offenders to help them find solutions to problems and to help them live safe, healthy, and productive lives. And whereas pretrial, probation, and parole officers, agents are an essential part of the justice system and uphold the law with dignity while recognizing the right of the public to be safeguarded from criminal activity and protecting the victims of crime. And whereas members of the Bucks County Adult Probation and Parole Department work collaboratively with the courts, local law enforcement, treatment providers, social service agencies, and a variety of other stakeholder programs, groups, and individuals involved with offenders. Now, therefore, do we, the Board of Bucks County Commissioners, hereby proclaim July 19th to the 25th, 2020, as Pretrial, Probation, and Parole Supervision Week throughout the County of Bucks. In doing so, we recognize that Pretrial, Probation, and Parole Supervision Week is a time to honor and celebrate the dedicated and caring individuals in our community who work tirelessly to make our neighborhoods safer. We also praise our adult probation and parole officers who seek to give offenders another chance to be productive members of society. In addition, we offer our gratitude to the management team of the Adult Probation and Parole Department and their fine staff of officers and clerical support. And I know we have with us today Chief Christine Schenk of Adult Probation, as well as Tom Terra and Crystal Carey.
Thank you. If you don't mind using the podium, if you'd like to say a few words, and then you can come and stand in front of us and we'll do a picture so we can maintain social distance.
All right. You? Sorry.
Thank you, Commissioners. I just wanted to extend our gratitude to the Board of Commissioners as well as to the court for the support in doing the work that we do. I would say that this is an even more important celebration this year because our officers and our clerical, our entire team has continued to do this job and accomplish our mission despite the pandemic the past 4 months, and everybody knows just what a challenge it's been. And I owe a great day, a lot of gratitude, for the staff that we have to be able to have accomplished what they have despite those challenges. So thank you very much for this. And I'm happy to have a probation officer, Tom Terra, with us today, and Crystal Carey, who's a longtime member of our clerical support, who's here today. And normally we would have many more staff, but in light of the current situation, I just thought they were able to join us. So thank you.
Please extend our thanks to
you.
everyone, especially during the pandemic. So
Thank you.
do you want us to move over? No. Thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Moving to brief public comment, we are taking public comment in the meeting room now as well as online for this meeting. So is there anybody in the public that would like to speak on agenda items that's here in the meeting? And I'll ask the solicitor, do we have any online public comment?
Commissioner, we do have one. We will, I think given that we're transitioning, I'm going to treat this as a comment on an agenda item. It concerns the Board of Elections. The comment comes from William Hines of Doylestown Township, and his comment or question is as follows. During the recent primary, Bucks County had only 3 secure drop-off sites available for mail-in ballots. This caused many residents to need to drive 45 minutes to drop off a ballot if they could not or did not want to use the U.S. Mail Service. Montgomery County, which has the same number of registered voters living in a small geographical area, had 10 sites available. My question is, are you going to expand the number of drop-off sites for the November election? And will you place them in areas where many residents do not own a vehicle? According to census data, there are a combined total of over 7,000 households without a vehicle in the following lower Bucks townships: Bensalem, Bristol, Warminster, Middletown, Falls, Upper and Lower Southampton, Northampton, Newtown, and Lower Mifffield townships. This number represents 65% of the county total.
Thank you. So that's a good question, but since we do have an agenda item that has the Board of Elections, I'm going to delay answering that. We have our clerk who is here will be able to help us answer that, so we'll just do that during the regular agenda. I wrote the question down. So nothing else, we will move on to the consent agenda. And I'm wondering if there is a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the minutes as well as the resolutions.
So moved. Second.
No questions from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, those motions passed. Moving to the regular agenda. Here we are. The first item is the Board of Elections. DMT Solutions Global Corp., DBA Blue Crest, Danbury, Connecticut, approve the purchase of envelope sorter to handle increased volume of mail-in ballots due to COVID-19 pandemic and enable increased social distancing and protective measures by the Board of Elections employees. This is subject to final approval by the county solicitor in the amount of $542,239. And I would ask Gail Humphrey, our clerk, if she would like to talk a little bit about this, but also answer that question as far as putting down more drop-off locations. Are we allowed to do it? How would we do it? Have you asked?
Thank you, Commissioner. To answer the question regarding the piece of equipment we're purchasing today, we're using COVID money. It is not taxpayer dollars here in Bucks County. And the purpose of that machine is to help us sort the ballot envelopes as they come into the Board of Elections. During the primary, we had 100,000 applications. We are expecting conservatively to have 200,000 to maybe 250,000 for the general election. There are over 400,000 eligible voters in Bucks County right now. I can also share with you that over the summer we've had 11,500 new voters apply to become a registered voter. So I think as mail-in becomes more popular throughout Pennsylvania and quite frankly through the country, that I think more and more of our constituents are going to choose that option. So the purpose of this machine that you're voting on today will sort, when we get the ballots back here on the Board of Elections in the mail, it's going to sort them by precinct. So the night of the election where we're allowed to start opening those ballots and tabulating them, our goal is to have them already sorted by precinct so we'll be able to move much more quickly, which I know is a concern for all 3 commissioners. Regarding the constituents question that our solicitor read, we have been thinking, and I want to say thank you for that question, it's a great question. We've been trying to think about options and ways we can be creative, still within the confines of the law and still with the guidance put forth by the Pennsylvania Department of State. And one solution we are currently considering, we have not brought it to the Board of Commissioners or the Board of Elections yet for a vote, would be on-demand ballot printers. Right now, a constituent can come to the Board of Elections here in Doylestown and say, I want a ballot right now. And we have a ballot on-demand printer here in the Board of Elections at the admin building.
We don't have them in our other two county offices in Levittown and Quakertown. But the staff is considering asking the Board of Elections to take a vote and allow us to purchase 2 more of those on-demand ballot printers. That would allow constituents in the lower end, and I think that was the concern, getting in, to a location easily, and Quakertown to go and say, I want a ballot right now. We'll have staff there if, the Board of Elections allows us to do this. The individual will be able to take that ballot, fill it in, they will put it in a secrecy envelope, and then it will be put in a secure location that will then be transported by sheriffs back to Doylestown. They will not be opened, they will not be touched, they will not be scanned. We can't do that under the law. We can't tabulate under current Pennsylvania law, but we are considering presenting that to you as an option. We did buy 2 more ballot boxes. They are purchased, as you know.
These are the drop-off ballot
Yes,
boxes?
yes. During the primary, we recommissioned our old voting boxes. We've purchased 2 more. So if it comes down to a situation where the commissioners do decide that we need to maybe recommission those 2 that were decommissioned, we can. We will have 3 brand new ones in Quakertown, Doylestown, and Levittown. But we do have those older ones if it's something that, we feel we need to recommission them again, kind of like we did last time.
To ask you, just to clarify, I think the caller was also possibly wondering if we would put more than 3 out. Would we put, because that has come up as an option?
We can. I mean, if the Board of Elections decides, as we get closer to the election, that that's something they want us to do, then what I'm saying is we do have those 2 other older ones we can recommission within minutes. Or we can get more. We have plenty of time to order more if the Board of Elections instructs us to do that.
Thank you. Gail, concerning the ballot boxes and the 3 locations, I mean, there were some people that expressed concerns about the security of the boxes and the chain of command when they were leaving those locations and coming up to Doylestown. Now, I know we discussed a little bit about increasing the security and what we were going to do. Would you just explain or go over some of the things that we're considering doing or going to do to make sure that these ballot boxes are secure? And then when a person walks up to the ballot box, they're just inserting 1 ballot in there and not multiple ballots, and the only ballot that they can insert is their own ballot.
Yes. First of all, we did put it in a letter to the state legislature suggesting that they put the ballot boxes in law and also put language in law providing for chain of custody of the ballot. But we are also intending to ask the Board of Elections to take an official vote on what chain of custody will be for the use of those ballot boxes. The way we used them in the primary and how we are going to ask and request that we be able to use them in the general are very similar. We used, in my opinion, probably one of the most secure options that was used throughout the state. We used sheriffs, and we used Board of Election officials to empty the box. So what happened was we had them in the field on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday leading up to the election. I think our Board of Elections is hoping that maybe we would send them out into the public much more sooner this time. And because they can be indoors, hopefully, if we remain in green with COVID, they can be in Levittown, Quakertown, Doylestown. But that box will have a sheriff on it watching it. They will also have cameras on it in those buildings right now. We have the capability through our security officers to be able to do that, to have cameras on them. And then what happened in the primary is the boxes were highly utilized and they got full halfway through the day. So I personally went and emptied them. And I think that part of the chain of custody is important. I don't think the sheriff, the person guarding it, should be the person emptying it. I kind of want to follow accounting rules. Mm-hmm. So I think a Board of Elections official should empty it, be witnessed by a sheriff, mm-hmm. and then we should put those ballots in a locked ballot bag, which we already own, and they can be secured either in a county building, or if it is out in the field like it was during the primary, they were secured and locked inside a sheriff's vehicle, and they were transported nightly back to Doylestown, where they were then locked in a secure room here in Doylestown.
Yeah, I think having the cameras on those boxes will also give a lot of people mm-hmm. some comfort about that, if there's a question about something that occurred, we can go back and look at the camera and see what actually occurred. So I think that is a terrific idea. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks. Any questions, Bob? Moving number 16, the Commissioners approve resolution extending the declaration of disaster of emergency of March 13th, 2020 relative to the pandemic through August 13th, 2020, and approve time limits for public comment at Commissioner meetings, 30 minutes total for each comment period, to be extended only by agreement of the Board of Commissioners with per-person limits of 5 minutes for agenda items and 2 minutes for other items. Questions for the Commissioner from... Okay. Housing and Community Development. This will be a series of changes that are going to be made. I guess these are going to be expenses related to COVID-19. So the first is A Woman's Place, approving a contract to provide repairs and upgrades needed to help cope with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, $27,000. Advocates for the Homeless and Those in Need in Fairless Hills, approved contract to provide housing and rental assistance for those impacted by COVID-19, $115,475. Advocates for the Homeless of Upper Bucks, Quakertown, approve a contract to provide housing and rental assistance for those impacted by COVID-19 pandemic, $97,153.04. Bucks County Community College, approving a contract to provide training opportunities for those impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, in the amount of $420,000. To the Bucks County Opportunity Council to approve, we will be approving a contract increase to provide funding to assist clients impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, in the amount of $500,000. To Bucks Villa, Langhorne, approving a contract to provide funding to help cope with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, $17,500. Coalition to Shelter and Support the Homeless in Doylestown, approving a contract to provide housing, food, and transportation support for services for those impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, $52,085. Educational Data Systems, Dearborn, Michigan, approving a contract to provide funding for training and services to combat job losses resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic, $297,000 and $297,075. Family Service Association of Bucks County, approving a contract to provide funding for the expansion of the emergency homeless shelter needed as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, $400,000. Again, with Family Service Association, approving a contract to provide equipment and supplies needed to help cope with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and to expand the food pantry, $26,269. Legal Aid of Pennsylvania, approving a contract to provide legal services to those impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, $50,000. Network of Victim Assistance. There's two here, approving the contract to provide funding for renovations of the Bucks County Children's Advocacy Center in Jamison to ensure adequate physical distancing as a result of COVID-19 in the amount of $81,825, and to provide renovations of the Bucks County Children's Advocacy Center in Fairless Hills to ensure the same COVID-19 physical distancing requirements in the amount of $8,000. To the Newtown Ambulance Squad, approving a contract to purchase a bariatric stretcher for transporting the increased number of bariatric patients due to COVID-19, $4,995. To Quakertown Community Outreach, approve a contract to provide housing, food, and outreach to those impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, $30,000. To Valley Youth House, to approve a contract to provide assistance to youth impacted by COVID-19 pandemic, $19,150. And to the YMCA of Bucks County, to approve a contract to provide equipment and supplies needed to help cope with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, $235,000. Are there any questions from the commissioners on A through Q on number 17?
I just want to say, obviously, the impact of the pandemic is not just a medical one. Clearly has impacted people's economic status, their security. It's increased food insecurity. There's issues with people obviously losing their jobs. The unemployment rate is still, very elevated despite some gains, and now there's worries of a slip back in terms of that. So at a time when more and more social services were needed, the agencies that we typically deal with here at the county were facing, of course, their own problems. Many of these they're nonprofits, and their fundraising, agenda as they came into 2020 has obviously been seriously hampered by the fact that they can't do the normal kinds of things they usually do to raise funds to accommodate people. Also, they're being required to follow the basic safety protocols to keep their employees safe, to keep the clients safe, and so they're facing increased need with decreases in funding and increases in demands on their physical buildings and all the things they need to do. So I really want to thank our Housing Community Development group for all the work they did, reaching out and contacting and working with all these agencies to see how we can help them, and using the CARES money in a way to help people who really are in desperate need of help, and to help the people who help them. So I see Jeff Fields, I want to thank him for his work and his staff and everybody else too. So.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Just real quick, this is just a terrific example of how we're using the federal money that we got through the CARES Act and putting it to good use, and helping the organizations around Bucks County that help our most vulnerable citizens. And I just think it's a great example of how Bucks County is using their CARES money, or part of it anyway, to really help those who are in need.
People keep looking for those silver linings in the pandemic, and so I guess one of the silver linings is that we found some of the weaknesses in our support services, whether it was at rescue squads, our homeless shelter, victim services, and this CARES money is helping us to fix those weaknesses we didn't probably know existed. So we are lucky to be able to do that, and I'm grateful to everyone who helped us do that. Human Resources. With Arthur Gallagher and Company, approved the termination of a contract to provide consulting services for health and welfare benefits. This is revenue in the amount of $78,333. Contract with CBiz Benefits and Insurance Services Incorporated, approve a contract to provide consulting services for county benefits. This is subject to final approval by the county solicitor, $170,000. Any questions from the commissioners on that?
Just note this is changing companies essentially to provide services to employees, and the county is saving about $18,000 through this change of vendor.
Thank you. And number 19, Information Technology with the Laro Corporation to approve a contract to purchase audio and video equipment for the first floor commissioner's meeting room in the amount of $132,341.69. I have been wanting this to happen since 2007. So I would ask Eric Nagy if he would like to talk to us a little bit about what's going to happen. How will this change this meeting and the next time we're together in August?
Thank you, Commissioner. So what this is, as we look around the room right now, we have things that are sort of piecemeal set up to live stream our meetings. That has been fairly effective, but it hasn't been perfect, and we are sort of at the mercy of technologies that we don't control. So we really would like to fix that. Before I even get into that, I just want to thank Mike Gallagher and Sean Laughlin for being the folks behind the camera, really every week innovating. Like right now we have a picture-in-picture of our ASL interpreter, something that we hope will continue moving forward. But these two gentlemen have really gone out of their way to make sure that this works. And really we turn it around overnight when this first started. But what this project will allow us to do is do it in a more professional, seamless way. We will be mounting cameras all the way in the back of the room that are super high definition, that'll pick you up from the front. We'll have cameras on the sides that'll pick up speakers coming to you as well as people in this box, and looking out into the audience. So we're going to have a 5-camera setup that we'll be able to switch. This table that Mike and Randy are currently sitting at will turn into sort of a operations table where we'll have a whole bunch of new equipment that will be very easy to switch between cameras and audio feeds. So this will be something that we will then stream to the internet over multiple platforms, Facebook at least, and YouTube, but also another thing we're looking at is our website, but we're hoping to get something into that as well. But what this is at the end of the day is obviously we are in the middle of a pandemic, and we are trying to cut down on the people that are coming through this building, and also allowing and increasing access and accessibility to our meetings and our public proceedings.
For what it's worth, we have never had a live stream meeting before this year, and attendance is what it is in person, but some of our commissioner meetings have had over 20,000 viewers. Some of our press conferences have had 20,000 plus viewers. Some of our town halls have had 20,000 plus viewers. So if you provide service to the public where they can see what you're up to, they will. It's just not easy for everybody to be here in person. So this is a really good thing for transparency and accessibility, and I know you've been working on it for a long time.
So it's another one of those silver linings, not just for the commissioners meeting, but for all the other meetings that we have been able to televise. Now we can do that clearer. People will be more involved. I know everybody has said for years that the question that commissioners are asked the most is, well, what does a commissioner do and what does county government do? So this is part of not just transparency, but letting people know what we do and what kind of services are provided. Any comments? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I was elected first as a township supervisor in Falls Township in 2003, and obviously took office in January of 2004. And at that point in time, you know, the township meetings were already broadcast on the dedicated cable channel. You know, they were sort of, you know, and some people would say this was not a good thing. It was the best thing on TV. As we started to make changes in Falls and things got less crazy, or, you know, people used to complain that, you know, well, I don't watch anymore because it's too boring, which is kind of, you know, that was sort of a good thing that we were making progress on that. But people knew what was going on. And the fact that here we are in 2020, in a building that's undergoing tens of millions of dollars in renovation, and the commissioners, you know, before, when all that was being planned, did not, you know, make any plan to upgrade the system here, so that there was really no way to broadcast commissioners' meetings. And you know, depending on how things would have gone, I guess last year, maybe, you know, they still wouldn't. I don't know. But the fact that I think it's obviously saying it's long overdue is kind of an understatement. The fact that, you know, here we are and you know, individual boroughs and townships and everybody else already does this. This is just, you know, it's been done for decades. And the fact that it's taken us this long is, you know, certainly is, well, we're moving forward. And I want to thank, this was actually something that was recommended in the transition report that was done, that meetings really should be live streamed, that people should have this kind of access to what's going on in their county. So I want to thank Mr. Nagy and our staff here, the guys, Mike Gallagher, and for all the work they've been doing on this.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve items number on the regular agenda 15 through 19?
So moved.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay, any last questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Moving to personnel actions, is there a motion to approve the personnel actions?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any board appointments today?
We have one. Tom Jennings is an attorney who was appointed to the Bucks County Community College Authority back in January. He has since been appointed to the Bucks County Community College Trustees. And so he's resigned his position on the Community College Authority. And in his place, we're honored to have Mr. David Oxley, who is a Newtown Township Supervisor and also has a lengthy background in finance. He has applied, and I make a motion to appoint Mr. Oxley to the remaining term on that Bucks County Community College Authority.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. No questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there any other board appointments?
Not
Does
this
anyone
time.
have any civics for today? Any other civics? I don't have anything. Mr. Harvey, do you have any?
I do not.
Moving on to commissioner comments. Oh, wait, skipped you guys. Sorry about that. We'll move to the chief operating officer's comments. Thank you, Ms. McKevitt.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just have a couple of events to announce. We are hosting our household hazardous waste collection event this year, August 8th. I'm having some trouble with this mic. August 8th at the Bucks County Technical School High School in Fairless Hills. It starts at 9 o'clock, ends at 3 o'clock. However, you'll have to go online to register to go to the event. They are encouraging that you do that. It is something that's being required through the Department of Environmental Protection. at the state level. So we hope that our residents will participate in that event this year. That's the first one we've been able to hold this year. And our Planning Commission staff are very much looking forward to it. Our second announcement is that in addition to the community and housing development projects that were approved today, our Human Services Department is going to have two sessions, one today and one tomorrow, to solicit comments and to discuss applications that they will be accepting from our non-profit service providers in the county. And you will see them come up in the Commissioner's agenda in the future. We're hoping that it will extend to some of the agencies that work with our Human Services Department, which is our Area Agency on Aging, Mental Health, Developmental Programs, Behavioral Health, Children and Youth, and Drug and Alcohol. And they'll focus and center around food insecurity, as Commissioner Harvey mentioned, and employment, child well-being, mental health, substance abuse treatment, and housing. So we are anxiously waiting to see what type of applications we're going to receive for additional CARES funding. That concludes my report.
Thank you. And we'll move to the solicitor's report.
So the board met in executive session yesterday to discuss some ongoing litigation the county is involved in. One thing we can just let the public know about in terms of what's been happening the last week or so, to build on the question about the Board of Elections. So all of the county Board of Elections across the Commonwealth have been named in multiple lawsuits that have been launched in the last couple of weeks, both in federal court and in state court. I echo Ms. Humphrey's comments that with the existing law, Bucks has been as good or better than any county in the Commonwealth in terms of making sure that the procedures that we're following accord with the law, but at the same time, the law could change between now and November, and we could be ordered by a court to change the way that we do things. The good news is that Bucks has really been leading the way, working collaboratively with other counties that are also named in these lawsuits. That has helped us both been really clear about trying to advocate for what we think is best for Bucks, as well as perhaps other counties, and also to keep our legal costs down by really sharing those costs across multiple county defendants. Finally, our Consumer Protection Department has been very active recently, getting a lot of inquiries about home improvement contractors, which is a good sign in terms of seeing the economy start to pick up locally and folks starting to be able to turn to things like that. But there are a lot of questions, many complaints, and we really want to commend everyone to the incredible resource that Consumer Protection offers. You can call our hotline or contact us online, but we have a whole host of resources that are free to the public, provided by Consumer Protection, so you know your rights. You can ask questions about specific contractors and practices to make sure that if you are making decisions to improve your home, you're doing so with the best possible advice available.
Sure. Thank you very much. Moving to Commissioner comments. Commissioner Harvey.
Yeah, thank you. A few things to start off. We mentioned the transition report earlier, which we've talked about last month especially, and 7 different subcommittees made up of roughly 70 volunteers from all over the county, and including some people who work for the county, giving feedback to the commissioners on things that can be improved upon, changes that could be made, highlighting different things that, in some cases, things going well, things that could be done better. Of those 7 subcommittees, certainly things like transparency, and talking about, videos and videoing meetings and increasing access to the website and what's on the website. That was one of the goals. There were goals focused a lot on health and human services, about how to, better, provide services to people and different ideas. And we did have 2 different committees, the Economic Development Committee and the Government Efficiency Committee, made similar recommendations. And the committees really operated, in many cases, separate from each other, so they didn't always know who was going to be presenting what. So I thought it was interesting that 2 different subcommittees made up of different volunteers both said that the Workforce Development Board and the Workforce Development Agency here in Bucks County really should be brought into the county as a county agency instead of being sort of its own standalone. It is funded through the state, and they do work with people all over Bucks County, helping them find employment, helping drive programs that would help develop the workforce of this county, helping retrain people who may have lost their jobs, or younger people who just came out of high school and don't really have a direction and know what they want to do. And so I'm honored that working especially with our COO, Ms. McKevitt, who has a passion for this as well, that she successfully has moved the Workforce Development Agency into county government. And we're very honored that we have Ms. Billy Barnes, who was the head of the Workforce Development Agency, now working for us here. And she is here. I was hoping she might be able to say a little bit about her background and what she hopes to do. So thank you, Ms. Barnes.
Thank you for having me. So as
Make sure you're on the microphone.
Harvey already stated, my name is Billy Barnes. I'm the director of the newly created Office of Workforce and Economic Development. Prior to our transition into the county, I accepted a position in August of 2019 as the director of the Bucks County Workforce Development Board. So not to bore everyone in the room, but just to give you a Cliff's Notes version of what workforce development boards do. There are workforce development boards in all 50 states. Locally in Pennsylvania, we have 22 workforce development boards. Our workforce development board is charged basically, you look at it, we have two customers. This is the easiest way to look at it. Employers in Bucks County and job seekers in Bucks County. To employers primarily, we are charged with providing skilled workforce to their open positions, right? We help employers fill their positions. For job seekers in Bucks County, we help them in a multitude of ways. We operate the PA Career Link Bucks County, that's the one-stop delivery system. Job seekers can come through, they can receive free services, training, as the commissioner mentioned, job placement, that's what we see largely our customers coming through our doors for, but also job readiness workshops. We offer those free as well. Prior to coming here, I returned to the area. I spent probably about 25 years in Philadelphia, 18 years working in Philadelphia workforce for Philadelphia Workforce Development Corporation. I spent 4 years at Bucks County Community College, and then I left and transitioned to work for the Department of Employment Services in Washington, D.C. I had a love for the area. I returned last year, and I'm happy to be back. It's been a whirlwind since I started, but I really feel like we are accomplishing some things and moving forward. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for your time, and I'm really anxious and eager to sit down with my new colleagues, meet all of you, talk about what you do, share what I do, and hopefully we can partner to serve residents better. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any further comment, Commissioner?
Yep, a couple things. Sorry, I'm dragging out the program here. But we really are, having workforce development included in the county, we feel, and this was echoed, this was really stated by the transition people, and these are experts when it comes to efficiency, experts when it comes to workforce development and just economic development, that by having a more integrated and sort of cohesive approach to economic development being driven by the county, we can really maximize all of these different agencies, having them cooperate with each other, work together, and help our residents even more. So a very big thing. And talking about talking a lot about COVID money and how we're helping out with economic development. When the CARES Act was passed and the $109 roughly million was sent to Bucks County as part of its allotment, there were certainly clear guidelines on where we could use the COVID money, the CARES money. But there are also some gray areas. And one of the areas when it came to economic recovery dealt with things like tourism. Certainly, we've started seeing in March, quite frankly, a negative impact on the hotels, the motels, the bed and breakfasts here in Bucks County They were already reporting in March that they were losing reservations, that their rooms were empty longer, more rooms empty and empty for longer. And so we knew right away that there was going to be an issue there. But it took some really kind of, more information from the Department of Treasury in D.C. about whether or not we could use COVID money to assist, especially the tourism industry here in Bucks County. We finally did get enough guidance that we felt comfortable, and we reached out to Visit Bucks County, which is the agency that does, the kind of tourism advertising and helps work with all those different, businesses, the leisure and restaurants and entertaining, all those kind of things. And they put together a marketing plan that is going to be focused from basically as soon as we get it rolling into next spring on trying to get people within Bucks County and immediately around Bucks County to do some what's called microtourism, do some staycations to highlight the different opportunities for entertainment here in Bucks County. Those that don't want to travel too far away, helping out obviously the residents here who are looking for things to do and helping out the residents here who own businesses who need those customers. The proposal, again, funded through the CARES Act, is for an amount not to exceed $3.8 million. That would include advertising, digital, TV, print, billboards, everything sort of soup to nuts between now and March. So I would make a motion at this time that we approve the allotment of $3.8 million to Visit Bucks County for their tourism program to help Bucks County's economy recover from COVID-19.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Commissioner DiGirolamo, any comments?
Yeah, just one comment on one issue, and again, I keep going back to this election and people being able to vote and to feel safe and secure. And it's a little disconcerting to me that there are presently now filed in the courts, I think one in federal court and one in Commonwealth court, one on behalf of the Trump administration and the other one on behalf of a group of Democrats that are mainly, but not all of them, from the Philadelphia area. And, and I keep going back to, shouldn't we be working together on this issue? To try to find a compromise. And what we should all agree on whether we're Democrat or Republican or whatever, young, old, whatever, we should agree on that everybody should have the ability to vote that is eligible. It should be as easy as possible, and especially in Pennsylvania now because we're using this new mail-in ballot, and I think that's important. And, and we have to learn to live with it as we're doing, because you saw we're purchasing a machine for $500,000. But we also, people want to know that their vote will count and that it's secure, the voting process, which means that there's no funny business going on. And I think everybody should agree on that. I mean, I think that's just common sense that all sides should agree on that. And I keep going back to when I was a little boy growing up, and I said something about, something that really stuck with me. And I remember as a little boy growing up, and I grew up on my grandfather's farm, and we actually lived with my grandparents for a long time. My mom and dad got married, and, they didn't have any money to move out, so we lived and we grew up with my grandparents. And my grandparents were immigrants, all four of my grandparents. But my grandparents that I lived with, the DiGirolamos, I mean, we lived on the farm, and everybody worked on the farm. I mean, even when I came home from school and I was a young boy, I would go out and see if I could help out. Even it was just kind of like, carrying water out in the field to make sure everybody, we all worked on the farm. And my grandmother worked in the field, right next to my grandfather, harvesting the crops and weeding and doing all that hard manual work. They became naturalized citizens. They immigrated here in 1912, and at some point, I think in the 30s or whatever, became naturalized citizens. But I can remember on election day, during the primary and in November, and I was a little boy, and they would be out in the field working. And at some point in the afternoon, my grandfather and my grandmother would go into the house, get washed up, and put on their Sunday best clothes like they were going to church, and the both of them would get in the car and go out to vote. It was just so important to them that they voted, and so much did they love their new country that they became citizens of. And we should embrace that kind of love and citizenship here. And we should want people to vote. We should want every person who is registered and eligible to vote to come out and vote, because that is the cornerstone of our democracy. And anything that we do that put impediments into doing that or makes it harder, or to me just does not make any sense. We should be all on the same page with this, Democrats and Republicans. And especially here in Pennsylvania now, because we have new voting machines, and we've got some challenges as we've talked about during the primary. But in November, I want to see things run really smoothly. It's going to be a large turnout, maybe an historic turnout because of the presidential year, but I think everyone should be able to vote and know their vote is counted, and everyone know that their vote is secure. And I think that's important, and I think we are working towards that here in Bucks County, and hopefully everyone's working on that. So I'd like to see the two sides get together and do the best that they can to make this as easy as possible and to go as smoothly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Second that. Is there any public comment? If you could come up to the podium. I know we know you, but could you say your name and where you're from?
Andy Warren, Middletown Township. Good to be back and see you all for real. This is a question about a agenda item, but agenda from April 15th. So I ask it now. One of the items on the personnel list at that time, April 15th, was the change of position title for 21 employees from security guard to police officer.
Peace officer.
Peace officer. What was is there a obviously there is a rationale for it. Does it have any impact at all on any of their status?
Chris, do you want to answer that on behalf of your staff?
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Andy. Yes, the security department for many years, as far back as I can remember, and I've been here 12 and a half years, the officers were sworn peace officers. And through some type of negotiations from the previous administration, thought that I had professionalized the department too much and asked me to pull back and refused to recognize them as peace officers, and were directed to call them security guards. When the new administration got here, we petitioned again to be called and be treated like peace officers, not security guards. They took away a lot of our duties that we used to do, and they have now been reinstated. And it had no impact on money. It had no impact on
that's
no impact on money whatsoever.
They previously, as security guards, they were not eligible for Act 195, and as peace officers, they also are not eligible for Act 195. Or were they then, and are they now? Has that changed at all?
No, it has not.
Which is it?
Well, anyone can apply to be the 195. I can't stop whether they're a security guard, whether they're a peace officer, they can apply. I have tried with zero success with the previous administration. The union has actually come in and said that we would not file for any of these things. We are sworn peace officers, and all we want to be called is sworn peace officers. When we advertised for people to come work for us, would you come as a security guard? That limited my job description, changed the whole 9 yards. They are sworn peace officers. All they asked for was respect our title. No change in money. We got some of the duties and responsibilities that we did back, and that's all they asked for.
I think the important thing is to say that you have extensive training and experience.
Correct.
They are trained peace officers. So it was
Calling them what they are.
Yeah. We'll check you in at the metal detector.
Those are screeners too, but
Well,
Our screeners.
Security peace officer.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
any other public comment? Is there any online public comment?
No, Commissioners, we just took those for the agenda items.
Okay, all right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. August 12th, we will be here, not the Grange, though.